Welcome to Screams from the Center. In this broadcast, I hope to provide information on topics I find interesting and give my take on them. This seems to be a Supreme Court week, so I'm going to today talk about in this installment the Supreme Court decision on Obamacare, also known more accurately as the Affordable Care Act. This is the decision that was passed down on the Brunwald versus King decision. This ruling came down on June 25th, 2015. It was a 6-3 decision. Basically, the case was about a specific sentence in the Affordable Care Act. That sentence basically, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the exact sentence on me right now, that subsidies would be given to states that run exchanges. Now, in the previous Supreme Court decision concerning the Affordable Care Act, it was said that states could opt out of making those exchanges and they could opt out of the Medicare expansions. So that put into play that sentence. Because that sentence did specifically say state, it could be interpreted that state meant, say, Colorado or North Carolina or Alaska. Obviously, that's not the intent of the law. The intent of the law was to provide the subsidies across the board. This previous decision, which allowed states to opt out, put that into play. So that's where this lawsuit came from. This was a 6-3 decision. The justices who dissented were our normal cast of characters. That would be Alito, Thomas, and Scalia, who all voted against. I do actually find it a bit surprising that Alito actually voted in dissent on this one, because this does mean billions of dollars to corporations, insurance companies. So I find it a bit unusual that a corporatist person like him would have voted against it. So I guess in the day, his hatred for an Obama legacy outweighed his corporate interest. No surprise that Roberts ruled in favor. He did last time. And again, he's a corporatist type of justice. And he sees the writing on the wall. Also, it seems like some of his decisions could be attributed to setting up a legacy for himself as well. He doesn't want to go down as the Chief Justice who presided in the Dred Scott case, for instance. So, at play was that sentence, and basically they used what's known as the Chevron precedents to make this decision, at least the 6 justices who ruled in favor of the case. And basically what that means is the Supreme Court is going to take the intent of a law, even if it's grammatically incorrect or has something that might have changed a condition that puts it slightly out of scope of what the law specifically says by rote. So in this case, they said that, yes, okay, it does say state in here for exchanges, that only state exchanges are going to receive those subsidies, but it's clear that the intent of the law meant nationwide, and that previous decisions rendered that in question. So we're going to clarify and say we're going to go with the intent of the law rather than what the law exactly says. Now, some people can interpret that how you will, and they may see that as kind of overstepping boundaries. Now, I do believe that the Supreme Court has been overstepping their boundaries quite a bit, including some surprises which people may think that I am in favor of, like Roe versus Wade. I think that decision was wrongly applied. The basis for it was incorrect. I do think that women have the right to choose. We could get into that later, but this is just an example. However, the means of the decision and the conditions of the decision I find dubious and overstepping their bounds. And this goes all the way back to Marbury versus Madison, which was a case which the Supreme Court tried to set up their own judicial supremacy. So I think there's plenty of cases that could be made on this. I don't think this applies because this is merely an interpretation of the law, and that's kind of what the job of a court is, to interpret law. Now, Justice Scalia tried to make a joke about it and said that we should really start calling this law SCOTUS care. Now, that may have been a joke on his part, but I think he actually means that because we've been seeing the data about the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, and it has slowed the rate of growth in cost of health care, and it's helping millions of Americans get health insurance. So I think that this is off the cuff, but actually it has a little intent to it. If they can deflect from Obamacare and maybe call it something like SCOTUS care, I mean, once it's beyond a shadow of a doubt obvious that Obamacare works, the right wing and GOP are going to stop calling it Obamacare. So I think this might actually be the start of that rebranding of the Affordable Health Care Act to take Obama away from it. Now, Obama has come out on this as well. He said along the lines of, after multiple challenges to this law before the Supreme Court, the Affordable Health Care Act is here to stay. We're not going to do this. We're not going to unravel what has been woven into the fabric of America. So he's trying to put his foot down and say to Congress, this is a message to Congress, not to us, to say, you guys need to get your act in shape. Continually repealing Obamacare, which I'm going to veto in the president's mind, is not going to be productive. So now he's making a forceful gesture to Congress, to John Boehner, and to Mitch McConnell there to fix the problems in the law rather than trying to undermine it. Now, of course, I think this is Obama's normal optimism and disconnect from the reality that the Republicans hate him. So I don't think that it's going to have the desired effect that he wants. I think he's going to come off as arrogant to the Republicans because they already feel he's arrogant. And in fact, Speaker Boehner said the problem with Obamacare is still fundamentally the same. The law is broken. It's raising costs for American families. It's raising costs for small businesses. It is just fundamentally broken. And we're going to continue our efforts to do everything we can to put the American people back in charge of their health care, not the federal government. Okay, a number of lies in that. Health care is broken. But the thing is, health care providers, your insurance companies, I'm not talking about your doctors or hospitals or the guy selling you crutches, none of that stuff. I'm talking about the people who sell you the health insurance, your Aetnas, your Kaisers, those kinds of guys. All they are is a middleman bank. You give them money, which creates this pool, and other people give them money, which creates this pool. If you remain healthy, then the money you put into the pool really doesn't do anything. Whereas if someone else is sick, they take money out of that pool and it covers the cost. So essentially, it's a banking scheme, and the insurance companies are bankers. So this whole idea about competition and we have to sell across state lines and all these things about the Affordable Health Care Act and private insurance are all meaningless because in reality, an insurance company just writes checks, or they don't write checks if they deny you. And that's really the only role they play. They don't determine whether your doctor gives you the best drugs or the current drugs or expired drugs or anything like that. They don't determine if your doctor is good or bad. They don't determine if the hospital is good or bad. None of these things. They don't set rules on who makes crutches. So to say that healthcare is in the hands of the federal government, let's look at this. The Affordable Health Care Act provides these subsidies to private insurance companies. So you either get your insurance through your employer, who gets them through a private company, or you get them yourself through these state exchanges from a private company. Now, you could say there could be coercion based on these subsidies, but since the insurance companies have been making lots of profits before, the idea is that maybe they can come up with some sort of scheme to drop people who can't afford it if the subsidies are at risk. I don't know. It's just speculation there. But the idea that conservatives tried to push with this is the fact that the government could try and pressure these insurance companies to do things that they don't want. Now, again, you write checks or you don't write checks. You either approve a claim or you disapprove of a claim. So I don't know what kind of government pressure they can put on saying we're going to pull healthcare subsidies if you don't perform open heart surgeries. That's sort of their decision. I mean, but the Republicans are saying that you should be in charge of your health care, that you and your doctor should be in charge. But the reality is it's not the government who's in the way. It's the insurance company. They're the ones who have to approve and write the check or disapprove and say that you have to pay it. And I'm not entirely sure if there is a provision about declining claims. So it's very possible we could see an uprise in claim denials rather than dropping people like they used to do. So I don't buy the argument that the government is between you and your doctor. The insurance company was between you and your doctor long before that. Remember Sarah Palin's death panels, for instance? Now, it wasn't really her idea. She got that from another right-winger. But she said that, you would have to stand before Obama's death panel and plead your case to save Grandma. You already had to do that. Before the Affordable Care Act, your health insurance company has a medical review board. That medical review board takes cases which are initially denied, you appeal, and you go before this board to plead your case. The insurance companies each had a death panel. That was the reality of the situation. So it's not the government getting in the way, it's the insurance companies getting in the way. This is why I am not a huge supporter of the Affordable Care Act. I do like the fact that it is starting to slow the tide of premium rates increasing, and it is providing insurance for millions of Americans. And if the Republicans would allow the Medicaid expansions, even millions more, I am all in favor of helping people, and it is showing signs that it is reducing costs. The problem that I have is that it still has these fake banks stuck in the middle. It still has these death panels. They have a few guidelines and rules that they have to follow that are federally standardized now, but they still exist. And I think if push comes to shove, they're just going to deny more claims to try and squeeze money out of the American people. So no, I'm against the Affordable Health Care Act. Am I glad that it passed? Yes, because the other options were do nothing or do nothing, because only a few people have brought up other alternatives. I mean, I know that the Republicans are talking about this selling across state lines, and I think I went into this before about how credit card companies have all gone to one state because it had the least regulations, and that's what's going to happen with insurance policies. So, that's a ruse. That's a red herring when they say sell across state lines, that's going to solve the healthcare problem. Also, health savings accounts are another thing that's not going to actually solve the problem. I mean, this is money that that's taken out of your check pre-tax, much like your federal income tax, FICA, and Medicare insurance. And it's put into a savings account. Now, the savings account earns interest, but you don't ever see that interest. It is a straight-up dollar-for-dollar contribution. Some employers match contributions, that sort of thing. Many of these health savings plans do not carry over to the next year. So if, say, you have $5,000 in your account, or you have a $5,000 account set up, and you have $3,000 left over because nobody was sick particularly much that year, then you lose that $3,000. So not only are you not earning interest on that, but you may not even get to keep that money. Now, this is disturbing to me because, if you really wanted to help people and you thought this was the way to do it, you need to open up these accounts. Now, and allow them to carry interest and carry over. If you want to charge a fee, you can charge a fee. But be upfront about it. Don't steal money from us and say that we're doing a good thing. Now, I will say, not all health savings accounts do this, but some do. You have to be careful. Even if it's tax money that you don't really see, I still have a problem with these health savings accounts. So, none of the options that the Republicans have ever mentioned, and keep in mind, the Affordable Health Care Act was presented in the 90s by Senator Chuck Grassley. It's a Heritage Foundation idea. It was enacted in Massachusetts by then Governor Romney. It's a Republican idea. Don't get it wrong. Anytime someone says this is Obamacare, just let them know that, well, essentially this started as a Republican plan. And there aren't a lot of tweaks to it. This is very similar to what Chuck Grassley had initially proposed. So we've got the decision made, and it seems like there's not really going to be any other barriers, but I don't discount the Republican need to ruin Obama's presidency as a motivating factor to try and come up with another lawsuit attacking the law. Maybe they'll go after something about the constitutionality of the healthcare equipment tax or the mandates on the business side, although I think that was pretty much covered with the personal mandate. Who knows? They're clever at this. So, that's it. That's what the court came up with this week. And that's it for this episode. I'm hoping you got a bit of information, enjoyed this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You can find me on Facebook at Screams from the Center. You can find me on Twitter at ScreamsFTCenter. I'm on Google Plus under Screams of the Center and this YouTube channel. So please like, share, and subscribe to me, and I'll get more out as fast as I can. Thank you for joining in.